Hey, girls, do you want to have some fun with us? I was hanging out with my best friend when some guys started bothering us. We tried to run away, but ended up being trapped in a dead-end alley. The guys caught up with us and said, "We're in the mob, you know that, right? Don't think you can run away from us." They slowly approached us, trying to intimidate. Honestly, I thought we were goners. Then, from behind, we heard someone shouting, "Hey." I looked up and found a man shouting, "You guys, get away from that girl right now." He wasn't telling us to run. He was telling the guys to. The guys looked dumbfounded, and I couldn't help but smirk. My name is Hannah. I'm a second-year college student, majoring in education, aiming to become an elementary school teacher. To be honest, academics isn't really my strong suit. But there are two reasons I'm pursuing this dream. First, I don't want to take over my family business. My family runs our own business. We can't say it's a normal job, so I don't want to take it over. The second reason is because the principal at my elementary school was an incredible teacher. Back in my elementary school days, people often avoided me or spoke ill of me because of our family business, and I was often teased. Every time that kind of thing happened, I would get hurt and cry. One day it happened again. An older student said to me, "You're a kid from that family, aren't you? Your family is not normal, isn't it? You're a weird kid." They laughed at me, and I was about to cry as I used to. Yes, my family isn't normal, but it's not my fault I was born into it. I often wondered why I had to go through such things just because of my parents. Just then, I heard a man's voice exclaiming, "Hey." Looking in the direction of the voice, it was the principal of my elementary school. "Did you guys just laugh at her about her family?" he asked. I vividly remember the older students looking a bit taken aback by the sudden appearance of the principal. "Things about your parents or family are beyond your control," he said. "Making fun of someone for something they can't change is the last thing you should ever do. If you had been born into her family, you might have been teased in the same way. Think about that carefully." Okay. Though reluctantly, the older students nodded to his words. "I'm glad you understood. I feel happiest when I see you all getting along with each other," the principal added with a tender smile. The following week, the principal repeated the similar message at the school assembly, and after that, the teasing about my family noticeably decreased. I'd say it was the principal effect. From that day on, whenever the principal saw me around school, he'd always greet me and even played with me during breaks. Since then, even though I struggled with my studies, I worked hard and made it to college, taking steps towards my dream just because I want to be a teacher like him. I chose a college a bit away from my hometown, so that many people don't know about my family background. Perhaps because of that, I made a best friend in college, and we've been having a blast together. One day, after class, I was at our favorite coffee shop, chatting away with my best friend, Jessica. Jessica is undeniably adorable to anyone who sees her. Actually, she's so pretty that she even has a part-time job as a magazine model. And true to her looks, she has a gentle and calm personality. I met Jessica in the school cafeteria. I was eating my lunch alone when she came up to me and asked, "Hey, is this seat taken?" "Oh, no. No one's sitting here," was all I said, and that was the end of it for that day. However, we met again in a class. Come to think of it, back then, the seat next to mine was empty again. And the person who asked, "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" it was Jessica. "Oh, we've met in the cafeteria." "Oh, right. Are we in the same department?" From there, our conversation took off. It turned out that Jessica was the only one who came from her high school and didn't know anyone at this college and had been spending her days alone, just like me. Our situations were so similar that we hit it off immediately. I learned that nearly everyone in Jessica's family was a teacher. Because of this, she wanted to be a teacher too, but she used to be teased for being a teacher's daughter. I hated when people would say, "You must be smart because your parents are teachers." "I mean, you can't choose your parents," she said. "I totally get that," I said with emphasis because I really did understand her feelings. Ever since then, we found that we've had so many things in common, like our tastes in food, and I feel like Jessica my best friend now. And, probably because of her modeling job, Jessica gets a lot of attention from guys. Almost every time we go out, she gets hit on. Hey, pretty ladies. Do you want to join us for a bar? See? As usual. This time it's a duo of guys, huh? They look like total players, and I couldn't help but roll my eyes. I'm sorry, I'm with my friend right now, so could you leave us alone? When Jessica politely rejected, one of the guys said, so you're good if I talk to you later. How about giving us your number, as he showed his phone. I'm sorry, but I don't give out my number to strangers. So we just have to get to know each other now, right? And, seriously, you're so pretty. Are you a model or something? Despite Jessica's clear refusal, why are they so pushy? I always wonder why every time this kind of thing happens. Maybe they think being persistent will work. Guys, take a hint, will you? When I said that, the two guys, who had only been looking at Jessica, turned to face me. We're having a girls' chat here. Can't you see? With Jessica being as pretty as she is and turning you down, can't you tell she's not interested? What? Just shut up, you butterface. I've gotten used to this sort of reaction. I mean, I'm no match for Jessica's looks, but do you have to say that specifically? Shame on you being shouted by the butterface. If you keep annoying us, I'll call the cops. I showed the emergency number 911 on my phone screen and shoved it in their faces. Being a nuisance like this is a reason for them to come, you know? With a smirk, I said that and the guys scoffed and left. Hannah, you saved us. Jessica gave me applause, and I proudly responded. That's a typical day for Jessica and me. A few days later, Jessica and I were out shopping. What should we buy today? Hannah, remember that cherry blossom pink lipstick we saw in a magazine? Let's get that. Really? You think that pink would suit me? I think it'll look great on you. As we were having a good time, we heard a male voice, hey, ladies, you free right now? Clearly, they were addressing us. Yet another pickup attempt. Today, we've already been approached by guys or scouts about 3 times. All for Jessica, though. Why do they have to interrupt our fun girl time? Just as I was wondering why we seemed available, I heard, hey, isn't that the cute girl from the other day and her hanger-on? Huh? I looked up and saw the same guys from the coffee shop a few days ago. Ugh. It's those persistent ones. Wow, it really is you. Isn't this a destiny? We have to hang out. What? Whoa, she's super cute. Isn't that the model, Jessica? My sister buys magazines, and I've seen her in them. This time the group was larger, totaling 4. Last time there were only 2, now they're doubled. They surrounded us, chatting loudly amongst themselves. All of them, without exception, had loud and obnoxious voices. I reached the limit, and I snapped at them. Hey, can't you see? We're just having a good time on our own. Do I need to call the cops on you again? As I raised my phone, one of the guys said, like hell you will, and tried to grab it. I quickly pulled it back and grabbed Jessica's arm. Jessica, let's go. I started running, pulling Jessica along with me. Huh, Hannah. Hey. Don't let them escape. Chase them. Sometimes it's better to run than fight, especially when outnumbered. And over here we have Jessica. And they were adult men, more of them than us. We had to get away. But it seemed only a matter of time before they'd catch us. As I feared, they caught up with us quickly. The alley we turned into was a dead end. Hannah. Jessica looked worried and tightened her grip on my hand. It's okay, Jessica. I smiled at her reassuringly and squeezed her hand back. I could hear multiple footsteps approaching rapidly, and soon, the group of 4 guys stood in front of us. There was a wall behind us and the guys in front. We were literally cornered. Finally caught up with you. Catching their breath, all the guys had smug grins on their faces. Just so you know, we're part of the mob. Think twice before turning us down. I stood in front of Jessica, glaring at the men. Come on, let's have some fun, sweetheart. Just as the men took a step closer. You guys might want to leave while you still can. A deep voice echoed through the alley. From behind the gangsters, a man in a sharp suit and glasses appeared. He looked like a typical businessman. Who's this old guy? Get out of our way. I warned you, you'll regret it later. Are you kidding? Why would we run in this situation? Just so you know, we're from the Gorillas gang. There's nothing around here that scares us. Saying that, one of the guys shoved the businessman. The businessman who was pushed fell on the ground. We're here for the ladies, not some random guy. Let's go, girls. One of the men forcefully grabbed my arm. I couldn't help but smirk. Hey, fellas. Sounds like a fun time. Mind if we join? Another voice echoed in the alley. This time, the voice is much deeper, more mannequin one. 6 men, even more than the previous group, appeared. Their outfits varied from casual to suits, some were wearing dark sunglasses, there was a distinct, intimidating aura about them. Even I could tell that the gangsters were taken aback by their presence. See, I did warn you to leave. The businessman, now standing up, removed his glasses and took off his jacket. What? What's going on? With the sudden turn of events, the obnoxious group looked completely flustered. Hey, boss. Your suit got torn. What? I just bought this the other day. He stepped closer to the guy who had pushed him earlier and yelled, You. You pushed me and ruined my suit, didn't you? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. After being yelled at to his face, the obnoxious group started kneeling down on the ground. I couldn't help but think, where did their confidence go? As I was lost in thought, a man in sunglasses, called Travis, said, Miss, sorry we were late. You guys really took your sweet time. When I said that while glaring at them, everyone had an awkward smile on their faces. Miss, please come this way. And Mrs. Friend, you too. Thanks. Jessica, over here. Jessica and I moved behind the group of 6 men. Hey, what were you guys thinking, messing with our boss's daughter and her best friend? These ladies. They're way out of your league. We're sorry. So sorry. By the way, you guys claim to be from our group. When did you join us? If so, then why didn't you recognize the boss's daughter, huh? We deeply apologize. We didn't recognize her. That's right. When you join our group, you're introduced to the boss's daughter. All our members have seen her childhood photos and heard cute stories from the boss himself, right? We haven't heard any such stories. We sincerely apologize. Huh? What did you say my dad does? That's new to me. I blurted out, but no one responded. Okay, I'm gonna talk to Dad about it later. In the end, the 4 flashy guys were made sit on the ground folding their legs. We took their contact details, made them promise never to mess with us again, and then let them go. The moment they were released, they scattered like scared spiders, running away as fast as they could. Jessica. Hannah. I turned to Jessica, who had witnessed everything. I immediately bowed my head and apologized, saying, sorry. Jessica, I know you probably figured it out, but I'm a daughter of the boss of a mob called the Gorillas gang. Gorillas gang. Jessica murmured. It's not well known around here, but in my hometown, everyone knows about this mob. I looked back at the men behind me. These guys are members of that gang, kind of my bodyguards. Bodyguards? Jessica's eyes widened in surprise. It must be an unfamiliar concept to her. Yeah, being the boss's daughter, I often get targeted. I've had many close calls with kidnappings, so these bodyguards stay with me but keep a low profile. Wow, Hannah. That's a tough situation. Yeah. It's always been scary for me to confess my family situation to others. I fear they will distance themselves from me, thinking they might get targeted too if they keep being friends with me. I've lost my old friends in the past because of this. Honestly, I wouldn't blame Jessica if she did the same. But I really hope she doesn't. Oh, and the guy who shouted for them to run and got shoved was also one of our members. What? Is he too? The man in question stood beside me. Yes, Jessica. Nice to meet you. I'm Keith. I take care of Hannah here. Keith bowed to Jessica. I thought he was just an office worker. Right? I think the same every time. Keith's plain appearance lets him blend in, and he often disguises himself as a businessman to protect me. He's the eldest of 10 siblings and close to my age, which was why he was chosen for this role. I've always looked up to him like an older brother. But why did you shout for them to run? We had many bodyguards today, and it's only fair to give them a chance to escape. It's to show we're not completely heartless. Keith grinned. Geez, that's a cunning look. Jessica. Keith called her name. You know we are members of the mob, but we have never committed crimes, and we will never. And Hannah isn't involved in our business at all. Her father, the boss, keeps her out of it. She's just an ordinary girl from a unique background. She might struggle a bit with studies, but she's just a regular girl. Yes. I might be overstating because I've spent lots of time with her, but every time she talks about you, Jessica, she looks really happy. All of us can vouch for her character, so we hope you two stay close friends. Saying that, Keith smiled at Jessica. Then the other members of the gang nodded at the same time. Do I really come off that way? It's obvious, Mississippi. You look really happy to have Jessica as a friend. I could tell that Keith and the others were supporting me by all means. I felt incredibly grateful that I had good bodyguards. Then, Jessica gave me a reassuring smile. Hannah, I'm really happy to be friends with you too. Wah. I've always known you're a kind and wonderful person. I'd be grateful if we can continue to be close friends. Jessica said with her bright smile, as she always did. I couldn't believe her words and couldn't help talking back. But after all that's happened, I've put you in danger, and being the daughter of a mob boss, you might end up in scary situations again because of me. But Jessica, with her infectious smile, replied, I know, today was scary, but it wasn't your fault, right? If anything, you've always been there protecting me and helped me out. But still. I wanted to be friends with you because you're kind and sweet, Hannah. No matter what kind of family you're from, I wanted to be friends because of who you are. I hope we can continue to be close. Jessica gave me the sincere and firm words, looking straight into my eyes. I was touched. Jessica, thank you. Overwhelmed, I hugged Jessica tightly. I almost cried. She gently patted my back, and for some reason, Keith and the other members seemed even more emotional than I was. So, those annoying guys were from a rogue group? Yes, they apparently tried to pick up girls like you and Jessica and make them accomplices in their crimes. A rogue group consists of gangs that don't belong to any particular organization and engages in antisocial activities. They're primarily formed by hoodlums, their acquaintances, and friends. However, their loyalty to each other isn't very strong. If someone is about to get caught, they often quickly abandon that person. A few days after that incident, I was curious to know what had happened to those flashy guys. We've gathered contact information from all of them, and we're planning to call them all in soon. Suddenly, one of my bodyguards, Mason, shouted out. Keith. More than anything, I can't stand that they're using our group's name. Boss, we need to punish them even more. Hearing the shout, my father calmly replied, Mason, calm down. But, I guess, we could let them off with just a warning. It's our duty as elders to guide the young when they stray. Dad grinned, looking every bit the mob boss he was. Geez, that's a cunning look. Isn't that right, Keith? Yes, perhaps we, the older folks, should teach them a lesson. Keith too had that mischievous look. It felt like all the men in the room had a cunning look in their eyes. I hope those flashy guys could survive, I thought to myself. A few days later, I was called by my father, and when I entered the room, Keith was also there. The rogue group has disbanded, he began. What? How did that happen? Well, I don't know all the details, Keith might know better, but we just leaked a bit of information. The rest of them, they just ruined themselves. Keith, what did you do? That's a secret. Keith grinned. Come on. Well, they had some internal conflicts, got into a fight, and the police just happened to be there and arrested them. Wonder who tipped them off. Keith joked. It was then I realized that even though Keith was my caretaker, he was a full-fledged gang member. Well, if they messed with us, we need to ensure they reform. They wouldn't have ended up in this situation if they hadn't messed with us. They'd better not underestimate us older folks. Dad said, looking confident and strong. He sometimes looks like a real boss of the mob in this kind of situation. I mean, he actually is. But then, from afar, I heard my mother shouting, "Hey, honey. You left the bathroom light on again and didn't put the seat down. How many times do I have to tell you?" Oh, crap. Dad quickly stood up and dashed out of the room. Sorry, Karen. I'll fix it right now. Do it before I have to remind you. How many times do I have to say that until you remember? I could clearly hear their conversation from the room. In our house, Mom is the real boss. So, those guys got arrested by the police? Yes, so I think everything's okay now. The next day at university, I met up with Jessica and, keeping it vague, told her, it seems those guys got arrested. Jessica, being cheerful as always, said, bad deeds come back to haunt you, huh? I had been worried if she was traumatized by the events, but she seemed fine, which was a relief. By the way, Hannah, do you want to come over to my place? You mean, your house?
Yeah.
I casually mentioned the other day's events to my family, and they're all buzzed up, saying, if she protected you, we definitely want to thank her. Buzzed up, you say? They're insisting that I bring you over. So, I'd really like you to come. My house is a bit lively with my parents, maternal grandfather, sister, and younger sister. I doubt it's as lively as mine, but if they're going to that extent, I guess I could come over. Feeling that it was a genuine invitation, I decided to visit Jessica's house a few days later. We'll prepare meals for your bodyguards too. They'll be fine. We both chuckled. Hey, by the way, how's Keith doing? Keith? He's fine. Why do you ask? Jessica seemed a bit hesitant and embarrassed. And then whispered, well, I kind of have a crush on Keith since I met him on the other day. Could you maybe help set us up? I blurted out.
What?
And our conversation shifted to Jessica's romantic interests. Today, I was invited over to Jessica's place. And I was taken aback by the person standing before me. Hannah, this is my grandfather. Principal Johnson. You know my grandpa? Yes, of course. He's the reason I aspired to become an elementary school teacher. Yes, the man standing in front of me was Principal Johnson, who was the elementary school I attended. He stood up for me when some older students teased me, saying, mocking someone for things they can't change, like their family, is the absolute worst thing you can do. He's the person I admire most in this world. As I excitedly explained this to Jessica, she said, really? My grandpa kept telling me the same thing growing up. It's no wonder we hit it off, Jessica said with a smile. As we continued chatting, Principal Johnson kindly remarked, you're Hannah, right? I remember you very well. Really? I'm so flattered. Of course. I always remember my students. You, in particular, were very dedicated in attending school every day. I was on the verge of tears, both because he remembered me and he was the first person to praise my consistent attendance. Sir, thank you so much for that day. That incident inspired me to become a teacher, just like you. That's wonderful to hear. And thank you for protecting my granddaughter, Jessica, from those shady guys. With your kind heart, I believe you'll make an excellent teacher. Tears streamed down my face upon hearing his words. Jessica and her family comforted me, saying, please stop crying. That day, I solidified my resolve to achieve my dream of becoming an elementary school teacher. There are many things in life that, no matter how hard you try, can't be changed. Such as family backgrounds, they truly can't be altered. Because I can't change it, I believe I've done my best. Life would be different when someone recognizes and values your efforts. For me, those people were Principal Johnson and Jessica. I doubt I would have led a normal life without them. Believing in Principal Johnson's words that I'd make a great teacher, I resolved to continue my efforts. And someday, when I become a teacher in the future, I want to pass on the lessons I learned from Principal Johnson to the children I'll encounter.